Hello and welcome to yet another edition of the 10-Minute Bundesliga Previews. So in this podcast, we're going to give a quick summary and rundown of each of the 18 Bundesliga teams, limiting it to 10 minutes. We'll take the format of talking about the team's background and origins, a little history, briefly discussing the transfer moves, and then moving on to last season's performances, and then ending it with a preview of next year. And then finally giving a season prediction of where the team's going to finish. So at the ninth spot on our list, coming in from the beaches of Santa Monica, by that I mean the Zinsheim municipality of Baden-Württemberg, it's David Hasselhoff, Hoffenheim. So TSG Hoffenheim are a small club that was basically a fifth division side for the most part until about 2006. When the software mogul Dietmar Hopp ended up purchasing the club and advanced them all the way to the top tier of the Bundesliga, basically by spending a lot of money. And of course, none other than Ralf Rangnick was involved because of the little-known rule that if in Germany you cannot start a plastic club without Ralf Rangnick being involved, just like in the United States, there cannot be a day that goes by without Donald Trump saying something monstrously idiotic. So a little bit about Hoffenheim's policy is they don't really have much of a history. One thing they do really well is they spend a lot of money, and they have the squad with the seventh highest market value at 90 million euros in Germany. And that's mostly because they've been really, really active in the transfers. So some of their biggest players in their limited history are all players that have come in on transfer. So guys like Carlos Eduardo, the Brazilian, who ended up leaving to Russia for 20 million. Probably the most famous player is either Dembaba, who is now in China, or somebody like Luis Gustavo, who is a former Bayern player now plying his trade in Wolfsburg, or Liverpool's Roberto Firmino, or Hertha's Vida Ibišević, or solid EPL pros like Gylfi Sigurdsson, or Borussia Gladbach player Fabian Johnson. So these are all sort of for the bigger names in Hoffenheim's history. The other thing they do really well is they develop young talent. There are at least 6 or 7 guys who are academy products. Even somebody like I mentioned in the Freiburg preview, Vincenzo Grifo was an Hoffenheim product, or Yannick Vestergaard, who we talked about in the Bremen preview, moving to Gladbach. And then they also have a couple of their other players like Niklas Süle, who's starting for the German Olympic team, or Nadim Amiri, who's a bright prospect. So they're doing a lot of things really well, spending quite well, and also investing in their youth system as well. This is also very, very indicative in the coaching aspect. So their coach is obviously 28-year-old Julian Nagelsmann, who's the youngest Bundesliga coach, and probably somebody who will be around for years to come, just based on the incredible changes that he's made since he was installed. So let's go back and talk about last season a little bit. Prior to his arrival, which is he was appointed in February 11th of 2016, Hoffenheim were tied for the bottom with Hannover, playing 20 games and accumulating 14 points, going 2 wins, 8 draws, and 10 losses. Since Nagelsmann took over, they are the 5th best team with 7 wins, 2 draws, and 5 losses with 23 points. So the only other teams that were better are Dortmund, Bayern, Leverkusen, and Gladbach, which is pretty remarkable. And you kind of wonder that why did they have to wait for Nagelsmann to take over when they went through sort of a couple of uninspiring choices in Marcus Gisdol, who'd been their coach, and then they had the one really perplexing choice was Huub Stevens, who played this sort of negative football, defensive football that really did not fit their style, and it was really because he retired due to health reasons that Nagelsmann even got a chance. And you really wonder that what would have happened had he gotten a full season's worth of opportunity. So let's talk about their transfers of the summer, which I believe they've done the best job so far in the Bundesliga, nailing a lot of their picks. So the first and the most expensive transfer is somebody they already had for half a year, which is Andre Kramaric, who couldn't get a lot of playing time at Leicester, but he came over in the winter break and was an excellent player for Hoffenheim. He averaged 3 shots per game and contributed 5 goals in just about 1,000 minutes, and was a constant threat with his passing, with his creativity, and he's going to be a great addition to Hoffenheim's attack, which was already pretty decent. The other big addition was Sandro Wagner, who you probably remember from Darmstadt, scoring the 14 goals. He moved for 2.8 million, and he'll be a target man probably, and should fit in quite well. Although we'll see how his sort of difficulties with passing mesh with the rest of the team. Another addition I really like is Lucas Rupp, who is on Stuttgart. He's one of the engines of that midfield and a really underrated Bundesliga player, always at the top of the distance covered statistic. Works really hard, can score the occasional long range goal, and at 5 million at age 25, he's going to be a great piece for Hoffenheim. And then the other, probably the best signing this season for value, I would probably say, is Benjamin Hübner, who is the Ingolstadt defender, who cost them just 800,000 euros. He's 26, and he was arguably one of the top 10 center backs last year with Marvin Matip, and how they got him for such a low amount is pretty incredible. And now they're going to have a very nice rotation of center backs. The one big loss that they had was, of course, Kevin Volland, who is probably their biggest name, but he did net them 20 million moving to Leverkusen. And Volland is one of those players who looks really great in some matches and can bang in some goals. He had 8 last year with 7 assists, but can also drift out of games, and he's an atrocious passer at 59%. And it sometimes wasn't clear that he was really sort of buying into the Nagelsmann philosophy. So I actually don't think he's going to be a bad loss for them. So as far as their lineup for next year, they've got incredible depth. I really like Oliver Baumann, who is probably the second best goalkeeper of the Rückrunde after not so great Hinrunde. So he's going to be a solid starter. I've mentioned Niklas Süle as the one center back, and the other partner is going to be Fabian Schär, who is, unless he gets sold to Arsenal for a lot of money, who started for Switzerland. And then they also got Hübner as a very solid rotation piece starter, and then even Erming Bacakcic is sort of a big center back who is really good at clearing the ball. And then they've got Jeremy Toljan as the left back, who's pretty solid, and then Pavel Kadrzabek, who is a Czech right back who is got a lot of energy and it's done really well for them. Their midfield is very good with Sebastian Rudi, who's a German international, can play multiple positions from right back to right mid to defensive mid. Eugen Polanski is sort of on the downside of the career, but he can help out at age 30. And I mentioned Lucas Rupp, so there's at least 3 guys who are pretty good quality, and then even somebody like Pierman Schwengler can help out. They've got some pretty good center mids in Nadim Amiri, who's a youngster. He's still only 19, but he's going to be a center mid, attacking mid combo there. They've also got pretty good wingers in Jonathan Schmid, who is this Frenchman who did really well at Freiburg a couple years ago and has been injured. And then they've got speedy wingers like Tariq El Yunusi, who is also the left winger. And then what I really love about them is the depth at forward. So I've mentioned they've got Sandro Wagner, Andre Kramaric. Alongside them, they've got Mark Uth, who really probably the one player who benefited the most and looked like a completely different player. And Nagelsmann scored at least 8 goals, most all of them under Nagelsmann, and looked like a revitalized player at age 24 after a couple seasons in in the Dutch league. So he's going to be really good. And then they've got some depth. Eduardo Vargas, who impressed for Chile at Copa America, but wasn't really getting a lot of playing time. They're still on the squad. And then Adam Salai, the Hungarian, who looked pretty good at the Euros. So I think some of those guys will probably get loaned out because I don't really see 6 of them getting equal playing time. But because of that depth, and then the coaching of Nagelsmann, who did use a lot of formations, 8 different ones, but I think he's got a deep enough squad now and a strong enough squad that I believe Hoffenheim can really challenge for sort of the top half of the table. My prediction is 9th place. So that's it for Hoffenheim. If you like what you heard, subscribe on SoundCloud at BundesPL or follow us on Twitter at BundesPL. Thank you very much.